Welcome to Among Friends. I'm Bobby Milk, and along with me is
Emma Dean.
We're coming to you this afternoon because we've embarked on something that I think neither one of us has done before. We've jointly interviewed Bill Bryson, who is this year's special guest at the Huntsville, Madison County Public Library's Vive le Livre event, coming up this Thursday, November 11th. And Emma, you've read everything that Bill Bryson has written, except for this most recent work, which we talk about in the first part of the interview.
Correct.
This work, At Home, A Short History of Private Life.
Yes, I read, the first book of his that I read was I'm a Stranger Here Myself. I read that about 10 years ago.
So you've kept up with his progress.
I've kept up, yes.
Right. I myself have read, about 10 years ago, A Walk in the Woods, which was given to me by a colleague at a coffee shop. And I enjoyed it very much and was always interested in what Mr. Bryson was up to, because I knew he was a working author. But honestly, I have not read fully any other works aside from arguably his most popular work, Walk in the Woods. So it was interesting that we both got together and were able to speak to Mr. Bryson about writing and his life growing up in Iowa. We talked about his most recent work. It's coming out
His most recent work just came out last month.
Right. His most recent work being At Home, which we mentioned earlier, A Short History of Private Life. Bill Bryson will be the special guest at this year's Vive le Livre, going on this Thursday, November 11th. What follows is a conversation with Bill Bryson. Just recently returned from a book tour, I guess, for your latest book, At Home?
Yeah. I'm just, as I speak to you now, I'm just between two trips to the U.S. I was there for 3 weeks, and I had to come back to England for a week or so. Now, in 2 days, I'm going back to America again.
Oh, yes.
Part of which will take me to Huntsville. Right.
Well, how's the tour? How's the book being received?
Well, it's gone really, really well. You just never know with a book how it's going to go, and this one seems to be doing really well. It's the critics have been kind and mostly enthusiastic, which is always gratifying, of course. And even better is it's been selling. It was last week. It was number 6 on the New York Times list, and even better in a way is it was number 1 on the independent bookstores sales list last week.
Excellent. Actually, I saw on the website for City Arts and Lectures that you're sitting down for an interview with in the San Francisco Theater. Is that right?
I did that, yes, a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, you did that? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, this is. Let me introduce you to last year's intern, Emma Dean, and Emma, Mr. Bryson.
Hi. Actually,
hi, Emma. How are you? Okay.
Yeah, actually, so far the conversation perfectly brings me to my first question for you, which is, it seems that you have come full circle in what you choose to write about, from travel narratives to most recently a memoir about your childhood and a book of at-home observations. Does this stem from a desire to cut back on traveling?
Oh, not exactly, although I suppose I don't travel. I don't want to travel as much as I did when I was younger. I'm just getting older, and so I haven't got the same level of devotion and energy for traveling. But I still do find, it remains one of the most exciting things in life for me is to find myself in an unfamiliar city or other locale and have a day free to just wander around. I really, really enjoy doing that. So it's not like the excitement of travel has completely left me. Part of the problem I've got is that when I have to be very sensitive to what I'm writing about. If I'm doing travel books, they're usually predicated on the notion that I'm going to be making teasing or making fun of, making light of characteristics of the cultures that I encounter. And you can make fun of Americans and Canadians and Germans and French people and Britons and all the other people from the kind of rich, developed world. But I've done all of them, and pretty much. And what's left to me then is the third world. And it would be a lot more uncomfortable or awkward to start writing books in which I took the same tone, but was writing critically about societies in India or Africa or places like that, because obviously it would have a completely different import to people. It might sound condescending. It could even sound hostile and racist, and that wouldn't be my intention at all. So I just kind of feel as if it's hard for me to write about the kind of books that I do as travel books about countries where people are genuinely poor or suffering.
Well, yeah, and
that makes sense.
I read a review of this, or it wasn't a review. It was basically like a little caption for this book, At Home: A Short History of Private Life. It may be a quote from you: "Write a history of the world without leaving your home."
Yeah, yeah.
How does this book differ from your previous works? And is it an overall shift? Do you see your writing evolving in a certain direction now that you are growing older and whatnot?
Well, I think I've gotten mellower for sure. I think the jokes I make tend to be less aggressive than they were when I was younger, and I think I am more patient with people whose opinions I don't agree with than I was once upon a time. But in terms of the kinds of books I write, what I really enjoy is variety. I would hate to end up just writing the same kind of book over and over again, and it's very easy to do that if you're successful with a particular kind of book. Mm-hmm. In my case, it was with my book about hiking the Appalachian Trail. It was called A Walk in the Woods. Then publishers want you to keep doing that same book over and over again. They really wanted me to. My publisher in New York really, really wanted me to go out and do, Appalachian Trail Volume 2. And they wanted me to go out and find another trail, but to take my hiking companion and go out and find another trail and do the same thing all over again. And just keep doing that for the rest of my life. And I absolutely refused to do that, because what I loved about my life and being a journalist, as I see myself, is just being able to kind of lurch from one topic to another, to get really into something for a period of maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years, but then to move on to something completely fresh. And I wouldn't want to keep doing the same kind of book over and over again. I don't have the patience for that.
Right. When you move on to something else, it's you haven't jaded a perspective by just wearing out your welcome somewhere. I can see where that's...
Well, yeah, I think I agree with you, and I think that the direction has got to be, the trajectory has got to be downwards for anybody who starts to repeat a formula. And, I don't want to mention any names, but I think we can all think of people who maybe had a big hit with a kind of book and then kept on doing that same kind of book, and after, there is a certain law of diminishing returns there.
Right.
It seems to me that your observations about people are always very discerning and witty. Would you say that you enjoy observing people?
I enjoy upsetting people, did you say?
Observing.
Oh, yeah. No, I do. I love to observe. That is what I do. It is observing. It's the only way I can work as a writer. This is when I'm writing my more personal kinds of books, where I'm doing a travel book or something like that, where it's me engaging with the world. I wish that I was more of an extrovert. I just really, really wish that I was, and I wish that I was the kind of person who could strike up conversations with strangers and get lots and lots of valuable material that way. And most travel writers do. They're really, really good at interacting with strangers on trains and in buses and learning about the places they're going. I'm just terrible at that. And so the only thing I can do is I sit in the background and try and be as unobtrusive as possible and just kind of spy on people. I eavesdrop on them. And that's the only approach I can use, because if I tried to be more in the foreground, it would just ruin things. I would be terrible at it.
Well, in my opinion, that being good at observation only makes you a better writer. So.
Oh, well, that's very kind of you to say, Emma. I appreciate that very much. I wish in life that I was more, less retiring and more sort of forthright. But in fact, we all are born with a certain kind of character, and I think part of the process of growing up is just learning to go with the sort of person you are.
Sure.
Well, and what does fascinate you as far as when you're thinking about a book? What makes one idea for a story outweigh other ideas, or this depiction of a character, other things like that pertaining to future works? Or is it all sort of based on people you've known, or is there a lot of creation?
No, there's a number of factors that go on simultaneously. One, the most important one from my point of view is it's got to be something that I'm pretty sure I'm not going to lose interest in 6 months from now. That if you're going to commit yourself to writing a book about a country or a subject, you better be pretty sure that this is something that will keep you interested and engaged for a sustained period, long enough to get a book written.
Right.
Because it would be awful to find that you really are very bored by that. And luckily, I've never had that happen at all. My experience of writing about different countries or different subjects has always been that you get helplessly fascinated by them, and that's all you want to do for a time.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also another factor, and almost as important, is that in order to get permission, so to speak, to write the books, I have to persuade publishers in New York and London that I can write a book that they can sell in both markets, and that is that's a commercial consideration that I have to take account of, because for instance, I would love to do a book on Canada, but nobody wants to read books on Canada, and Canadians don't want to read books on Canada,
right?
And so it becomes very difficult to persuade publishers in both London and New York to let you write a book on Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to do a book on baseball, but the publisher in London absolutely begs me not to, because there's no interest in Britain in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be something that means that in my case it has to be something that has some element of universal interest.